Jack, the ball buster. So Jack is, how you doing? How you doing? You're a high voice, you know? How you doing? I said, I'm great. I got all the canned peas on. He goes, what the hell is this? I said, what? What? He says, it's $1.47. I said, what do you mean it's $1.47? He said, it's $1.89. I said, this is $2.50. What the hell are you doing? I said, I'm using a stamper. Well, they gave me a defective stamper. Every time I stamped, it would move to the next digit. And then it would start it out at 19 cents. And by the time I was done, it was $9.
Welcome back to Achieving Failure, the podcast that brings you nostalgia mixed with some life stories. I'm your host, Chris. Today with me, our favorite guest, a reoccurring guest, is my father, Dennis, is back on the show. And the reason I brought him back was we were going through some old episodes, kind of talking about some funny stuff, and we were kind of talking about his old adventures at SOS TV. And more recently, I was talking to a lot of people about kind of working at my first job, and I kind of thought, what better way to try to revamp this whole podcast and nostalgia and everything like that than talking about pretty much our first time having pretty much our first time working at a job, getting our first job, whether it be mowing lawns or actually working at a convenience store. So I know we both have some similarities, some ups and downs, and I kind of wanted to share that. So first off, Dad, welcome back to the show. Glad to have you.
Well, this is a delightful experience. And I just want to say, have you spoken to many people about their young life part-time experiences? Because it seems that today, not when I was a kid, not when you were a kid, but today, part-time jobs don't exist. People don't do part-time jobs. That's beneath them. And I think what we've learned, and I've seen it through you, is that part-time jobs, doing tasks and chores, these are things that build character, experience. They make you so valuable. And the experiences that you have are always peppered with these strange ones, which make life even more interesting. So I guess what I'm trying to say is not to have had these experiences, a young person, is kind of a deficit. It's kind of a shame that everyone doesn't get an opportunity to work in a great place or a crappy place. They're really good, so you can learn what not to do. I remember Brendan O'Regan telling me that he had gotten he was so happy he got a job at McDonald's. And if he could see the look on my face, like, oh crap, this made you happy? He says, Mr. Rear, I was so happy to get this job because I never, ever, ever want to work in a place like this ever again. Now I know it. and that was, there's a life lesson, man. I tell you, how to get the hell out of there as quick as possible. So,
well, I know there were some jobs that I absolutely enjoyed, and there's some jobs that kind of, while at the time they were fun, it was more. I was talking to some of the people that worked there that pretty much unfortunately became their career, and I said, I do not want to do this. This is one of those, no, I got to get out while I can, because a lot of the guys told me, and this is, I mean, unfortunate, is they just kind of got trapped in the job. Say a supermarket, not to talk shit on the supermarket people. We obviously need them for food and supplies and blah, blah, blah. I can't grow a goddamn basil plant to save my life. I look at the thing and it's dead. I water it, dead. Too much sunlight, dead. So I depend on them to go to the store and actually be there to stock everything. But I start talking to the guys that have been there for like 20, 30 years. And I said, so if you don't mind me asking, like, what actually happened? And it's always started off at your age, 16, 17, working at the supermarket. Then my mom got sick, family issues. I got into trouble, had to get a part-time job. Next thing I know, meet a girl, she gets pregnant, have a family. Next thing I know, 20 years goes by and I go, I guess this is it. I can't start over. It's too late. And I just kind of go, oh, So they always told me, the guys that have been there the longest, they said, unless you're going into management, unless you're really good and know what you want to do, don't be like me. Find something better and just get out now. Because if you stay another year, it's going to be another 15, it's going to be another 20. And next thing you know, you're going to be just like me.
There's another side to that. The other side to that is that that's exactly where that person should be. It's a perfect job for them because the alternative, and I've seen it, I've gone through a lot of different jobs in my life. The alternative is that you get to be a prominent individual, you get to be on the executive team. You get divorced two or three times. You have like three families. Your life is all screwed up. You're an alcoholic, and you make a lot of money, but you piss it away, and you die a pauper. Mm. Meanwhile, there's the guy who worked at Grand Union for all of his life. He's got a small house, nothing, no major things, but he's kind of enjoyed life. So we can't really call it. It depends on where we're at, and it gets back to where do you want to be? How do you want to enjoy life? What me, I always went after passion. I always wanted to. There were things I wanted to do. I just wanted to do them, and I learned from every experience, and I think they stacked up and helped me throughout my life. Um, I do. I remember a few things that are kind of funny in terms of like stupid jobs. It's a summer, I'm in high school, and my best friend Len says, "Do you want to go and deliver yellow books?" Now, yellow books, I don't have one. I could show, but it's a big phone directory for the local area, and yellow books were big and thick, and that's how you had a listing of everybody's phone number and in there, you had ads for local businesses. Now, this was long before the internet. The internet kind of cloned that idea. What's on the internet now, in terms of services and such, were in a book at one point. So this paper book was published once a year, and you delivered it to houses, and they had to have some young kids for little or no money deliver them to houses. So that's what we did. They're big and heavy, and you're walking around. It's a hot summer day, and sure, I'll do it for $10 or whatever it was for the entire Saturday. So we go out, and you would think, okay, so you go around, you get a bunch of books. The guy driving the truck gives you the books. You go around until you need some more. What could possibly go wrong? Well, it's not a block or two before you meet somebody and they're complaining to you about God knows what. It has nothing to do with what you're doing, but they've got your ear, so now they're going to start complaining about the world. Okay, thank you, lady. I'm moving on. Let me go. Don't walk on my grass. Walk around. Walk on the sidewalk. Okay, whatever. So you're learning about people. Then we get to another place, and the minute I walk onto the sidewalk to go to the house, the sprinklers turn on. So now I've got 10 books here that are gotten all wet. They're useless now. I've got to throw them away, and I'm soaking wet. Okay, it's a summer day, so I don't really care, but I've just destroyed 10 books. And what I did is I left a wet one on their stoop. I figured, all right, that's their problem. So I go back, I get some more books. I guess, oh, you got rid of them already? And I'm thinking I'm not smart enough to just have thrown them in the garbage. I should have done that. Oh yeah, I got rid of them already. Yeah, but I didn't. I gave them back to him. He said, well, how'd you get so all wet? What'd you do here? You pee on them? So I said, no, I had the sprinkler. And we go down, we're walking around doing stuff. It's a hot day. And I start walking up to this one house, and I've got these books. They're heavy, and I'm walking up, and I'm getting closer and closer. And it's a screen door, and of course the house door is open, and it's a warm day, and inside the house is a dog, and the dog is sitting there, and we make eye contact, which is always dangerous. Okay, and this dog was large. This was every bit as big as I was as a dog, as a person. And as I'm walking up, I'm starting to think, I'm getting a bad feeling about this. The dog gets up, starts to growl, and then starts racing for the door as I get closer. So we're moving together, we're getting closer and closer to that main door. And he just jumps at that door and rips through the screen and right through, right for my head. And he lands on the stairs, and I fall down, and the books go all over. And then our eyes meet once again, and I know what he's thinking. I don't know dog language, but I know what he's thinking. He's thinking, oh shit, I'm going to be in trouble for this one, right? And the door's wrecked now, right? And he, And he goes, runs back into the house, and the guy comes out and he's screaming, what's going on out here? And that sort of thing, like, so, just in a short period of time on a Saturday afternoon and during a summer earning $5 for the day, you have some real experiences and some responsibilities, and you learn a lot about people. So, I mean, these are little things, but they add up. And then you wind up being in corporate and finding out that there are a bunch of assholes there that you have to deal with. They're not dogs. Dogs are easy, but dealing with temperaments of human beings is even more complicated. So,
Well, I'm glad you and I have a crazy summer story because the way I kind of started was I don't even know where I got the idea. I must have stole it off somebody, but it was just mowing lawns. Now, fortunately for me, it wasn't one of those. I mean, we had, I guess, fortunately, unfortunately, I had all different types because we had that push along mower, the one that actually cut the blades and just spit the shit everywhere. That manual push mower. You remember the old one? We had the one that would it was kind of like a push broom and it would actually collect the leaves and it was like a push broom that would sweep it up and then collect it into a bin behind you and you're kind of pushing this thing. But I was fortunate enough to have a self-propelled lawnmower and you would just kind of hold the safety mechanism and you would actually be able to walk up hills instead of doing it like the old people did and you have to actually struggle and you're slipping and falling. So I remember I got motivated to start mowing lawns one day, and I guess I started just walking the neighborhood because we lived on a cul-de-sac, and I went up and down, and everyone's like, "Oh, thank you, but no, thank you." And I went to this one house, and it was down the road, not too far, maybe quarter of a mile, not too far. I mean, for me, I was six. How old was I? 13, 14?
yeah.
Not too old, but I still had enough responsibility to walk maybe a quarter of a mile away from the house. And I knock on this guy's door and he answers and he goes, "Oh, yeah, I would love for you to mow my lawn. I'm John, by the way." And I go, "Hey, John. Well, hey, when do you want me to mow your lawn?" And notice it's really overgrown. He goes, "I don't know, come back next week." I come back next week. I got the lawnmower all filled up and I'm all excited. I got my first customer. We agreed on a price. I don't know. 20 bucks. I'm excited. I'm a 13-year-old. 20 bucks for me is a thousand. So I'm all excited. I start mowing the lawn and I'm going through, and I get like maybe one or two passes up and down his driveway, and the thing is just full of grass. Because I mean, at that point, that grass is almost up to my knees. It was super high, and I was super thick, and I was like, oh, this that
Yeah.
kind of right then and there, the reality of, uh-oh, I don't think I knew what I was getting myself into. That kind of started to settle in, and I was just like, okay, well, hey, where do you want me to dump it around there? So it took me hours, and this is during the summer, and it was actually getting hot, and but I was determined. I was struggling. Every two passes, had to dump it, going, going, going. Finally, I was just like, hey, weird question. Do you mind if I use your bathroom real quick? Yeah, yeah, come on inside, blah, blah, blah. And now, mind you, here we are. We're in the age of innocence. We didn't really have to worry about weirdos in the neighborhood. So it's for me to just walk into a neighbor's house. I didn't really feel too worried about those people in your neighborhood. He lets me inside. He brings me to the bathroom, and it's the old late 70s style, just those very pink tiles on everything. Very the tub, the toilet, everything was just pink. That's just that very old, ugly, retro, late 70s, early 80s pink. And I used the toilet and I put the lid down and I noticed in red lipstick jammed into the lid, it says pigs pee on the floor. And I'm going, what the hell?
Did you pee
What?
on the floor then, or?
I
Oh,
said, well, obviously this isn't for me because this is already here before I came in. And I go, I go, I'm washing my hands reading this, and I'm like, pigs pee on the floor. Okay. So here I am having this awkward conversation going, hey, John, again, I'm a kid. It's one of those we just kind of ask. He goes, "What is that thing on the toilet lid? What do you mean pigs pee on the floor?" He goes, "Ah, that's my I got a prostate problem, so she always yells at me because I pee on the floor sometimes. Sometimes I miss and blah blah." And then he just starts unloading all of his life stories on me, and I'm going, "Hey, dude, I'd love to sit here and listen, but I gotta go mow your lawn. I don't want to hear about your prostate. I'm 13. I don't even know what that means right now, but I gotta go. I gotta go mow the lawn." So, I mean, I wound up having a good relationship with him. I wound up going back every couple weeks mowing the lawn, and two of the times he actually took me to the recycling center, and he and I got to talk. And again, he took me to the recycling center way down in right by town hall. I don't know if you ever knew that. He just, hey, you want to hop in the car with me? Let's go for a drive. Oh, okay, let's go for a drive. Where are we going? Like, yeah, don't worry about it. We're going to the recycling center. Okay, am I coming back? Hopefully.
Yeah.
But one of the times I was there, again, super hot summer. I'm dying of thirst. I said, dude, I'm a kid. I'm not prepared. Being in the scouts, I should have been a little bit more prepared for this. But I go, hey, I'm dying of thirst. You got anything? He goes, yeah, I got some soda. Do you like Pepsi? I said, yeah, sure. He goes into the garage and he comes out with a can of Pepsi and he goes, here you go. Now, if you put two and two together, he goes to the garage and he comes back with a can of Pepsi. It's summertime. I already know it's not going to be cold. And it was just drinking that hot, syrupy, carbonated soda. It was just, oh my God, it was the worst thing ever. But that's how I started my working experience. And then from there, I just kind of graduated to, I finally got a real job at Stop and Shop, which I know you and I have our own stories. You said I worked at Stop and Shop, which used to be an old Grand Union for the Northeast people actually kind of know everybody else. The only time anybody else can actually relate to Stop and Shop is if anybody watched Family Guy. Stop and Shop is a kind of a Northeast chain like ShopRite, Grand Union, stuff like that. But you were saying you worked at Food Town for your grocery store, right?
I as a kid, I'm 11, I'm 12 years old, and I am just so anxious to do things. And any opportunity to do something. And thank goodness my dad said, all right, maybe my friend needs his lawn cut. I'll take you over there on Saturdays and you can cut his lawn and I can pick you up and bring you home. Okay. So there was a lot of effort for him. Then I got the lady behind us, Mrs. Winter. Mrs. Winter was this older lady. Everything was perfect in her house. She was a classical piano teacher. Her yard was perfect. Everything was perfect. It was like this Miss Perfect. And she was a beautiful lady, lovely lady, very proper. And she engaged me to do her lawn, which I did for a number of years. And I got $6 to cut her lawn and trim it. And I worked with her a lot on her roses and all sorts of. I learned a lot from her. So I was anxious at 11 and 12 to do a lot of things. So I could not believe that somebody would give me a job. So my old man, now I'm 16, so I got my working papers. And my old man, who knew the folks who ran the local food town in town, and he says, you should go over there and get a job. I said, I don't know how to do that. What do you do? He says, you just go in there and you ask for a job. I said, I can't do that. He said, you just do it. You just, I'm going to pull up. You're going to get out. You're going to go inside. You're going to ask for a job. Are you going to come in? No, I'm not coming in. No, you just go in and you ask for a job. And I'm trying to remember the guy's name now. I just forgot it. It was a family that owned the supermarket, and it was the old man, and it was the two brothers and the uncle and so forth. So I go in, and one of the guys was John, and I said, John, I said, I'm Dennis, Herman's son. Oh yeah, I know you. And I said, I was looking to see if I could get a job. He says, sure, whatever. You want to start tomorrow? I go, what? He says, yeah, you'll start tomorrow. Okay, great. Holy shit. Did my old man talk to him or what? Who knows? He might have. I don't know. But the point was, he just said, you just go do it. You don't make a big deal out of it. You just go do it, right? It's either going to be yes or no. You're going to find out in 2 seconds. So I go in, I sign some paper or something like that. I come back the next day and I put in a whole week. I couldn't wait to get that paycheck. And I know you've experienced this. I get there and I get this paycheck. And at the time, I think the pay was like $1.50 an hour. So it was almost nothing. See, but to me, it was a lot. So yeah, I get a paycheck. It's $18.35, and $12 had been subtracted. And then it said, "Oh, here's your check, $6." And I go, I don't understand this. So I had to ask somebody. I said, John, why is it only $6? He says, that's after tax and everything. I said, but $6? He said, oh, but that includes your dues for the union. And I said, well, I don't belong to the union. In fact, I don't even know what that means. And he says, well, everybody belongs to the union, so you got to pay $12 to be in the union. So I said, so the union got twice as much as I got. And therein lies my hatred for unions from then on. Uh, I worked my ass off for a week. They got $12 for doing nothing, and I got $6.
Kindred spirits we are.
So I'm not a communist. I never will be. I'm not a socialist, and I'm not in favor of unions unless there's a really, really good reason. And sometimes there are, but that was not one of them. That's for sure. But that was a good experience because I was working in the putting cans up on the shelf. Now, my old man came out of that business. He did that for many years. He was 13 or 14 years old. They gave him a store back in the 20s. Now that was a rare thing for them to give a young person who wasn't even old enough to have working papers. They gave him a store to run, the First National store. I know exactly where it is today. It's on Fort Lee Road in Teaneck. And he ran the store as a manager. So that was in his blood for many, many years. And so he would come home with stuff, and he would have this gadget that, you just stamp it on top of the can and it would put the price tag on it. This was long before UPCs. Because how did you know how much something was? You go in the store and there's a little ink thing on it, and you use the stamper, and that's how it was. So of course I get issued a stamper, and I'm going to be a real sharp guy. I'm going to get these canned peas out really quick. So I get my stamper. Okay, how much is it? Like 19 cents. It was like nothing in those days. So I go, okay, think it. I got all the cans done. I put them out there, right? Okay, and then I do the next one. I put them out. I put them out. Oh man, I'm doing great. This is fantastic, right? I put them up there, and then Jack comes by. Jack, the ball buster. So Jack is, how you doing? How you doing? He gives me a high voice. How you doing? I said, I'm great. I got all the canned peas on. He goes, what the hell is this? I said, what? He says, it's $1.47. I said, what do you mean it's $1.47? This is $1.89. I said, this is $2.50. What the hell are you doing? I said, I'm using a stamper. Well, they gave me a defective stamper. Every time I stamped it, it would move to the next digit. And then it would start it out at 19 cents. And by the time I was done, it was $9. So I said, now you got to scrape all of that off. It's going to take all night. You're going to have to use steel wool and get all the numbers off it and put it back up. What the hell? I'm going to fire you now. I said, I'm only here like a day, right? So I said, geez, I hate this shit. I don't even want it. Then about an hour later, somebody broke like 4 bottles of ammonia in that same aisle, and we had to like evacuate half of the building. We're all dying. So who the hell did where did you do that? So I was nowhere near that. I'm in the P aisle. I'm over here, right? So fortunately, however it worked out, I got transferred to produce, which was much better, because then I could go down and I could take my time bagging potatoes and making salads. And that's when Mr. Jesus, can you help me with the name? I'm having trouble remembering his name. It's so funny. Yeah, I can't
Mr.
remember.
Fafufnik, I don't know.
Yeah, the owner of the store comes down, big guy. He's this German guy, He says, let me show you something here. He says, look, I want to show you how to make money in this business. I mean, I was a real learning. He says, what do we have here? I said, well, we have six rotten melons. He says, right, we have six rotten melons. Now I'm going to show you how to make money. He said, so I'm going to cultivate a bad part. I'm going to open it up and I'm going to put a couple of cherry tomatoes or a couple of cherries in there. And then I'm going to wrap it up with plastic. And look at that, how beautiful that looks. All right. It's only 39 cents, and then they don't have to buy the whole melon. Yeah. And so we did that. He saved all of this rotting fruit and put it out as prepared food. And people loved it, right? And then he said, okay, so we're going to make a big salad. And he comes and he says, get all of the stuff that didn't make it to the produce aisle, all the stuff that was kind of crappy. Okay, we're going to make that into salad. So we take all of the defective vegetables and we cut it up into the big sink and mix it up with our hands. God knows they're probably filthy dirty. And then we would put it in baskets and wrap it up and put that saran wrap, which we still use today, and put it out there for an exorbitant price. I mean, these were great learnings. Then one day, somebody says, in the back, there was a conveyor belt. And it's where the incoming products go. So you'd have an offload, somebody coming in, they got, 100, 200, 300 boxes of vegetables and whatever it happens to be. So it gets offloaded onto that conveyor belt. Great. Okay. It comes down, it gets distributed. Then, at night they bring it upstairs on an elevator and it goes into the shelves. So one day I'm down there, I'm doing the potatoes, I'm doing a salad. I can't breathe. It's really bad. Oh God, I'm ready to die. So I say to somebody, I says, something's not right around here. And he said, yeah, I know, I noticed that. So we go over, and the conveyor belt passed by the evaporator fans. Now these are the evaporator fans for all of the refrigeration in the building. And somebody had put perishable meat on the conveyor belt and rolled it down, and it stopped right in front of right in front, right? I don't know how many hours it was there, but some idiot didn't, distribute the meat, and now it was totally rotting and stinking, and it was awful. And I'm thinking, uh-oh, I know what's coming next. We're going to get the old man down here to cut away the bad part of the meat and repackage it and put it up there, and I didn't want any part of that. I said, oh, good Lord, So just, people take things for granted. Running a business is a lot of work. It's a lot of aggravation. It's a lot of detail. Most people are not up to it. They're so, their world is so simple. But
well, I mean, me running the aeronautical drone business, that was a learning experience in itself, because I learned that I'm sitting there going, why can't I get business? It's because I advertised it completely wrong. Because I'm getting people, all types of people. Do you do drone shows? Do you do drone parts? And I go, no, I do roof inspections. And I go, oh, well, that's not what the company says. And I go, well, I don't know what the hell. What do you want from me? And I learned that it's like the biggest thing that it comes down to. And even my wife, now that she's going into her own business, I said, you need to market it as simplistic as possible to tell the person, this is what I do. So, I mean, it really is a learning experience. But now, one of the things was, I remember you telling me about a guy working in, you mentioning you were working in produce. You mentioned a guy named Adolf, who was the son of the owner, son-in-law or something, but he
so it was yeah, I just remembered the name. That it was the Ponsenhagen family, and the Ponsenhagen family had started small, and then they got together and they bought a store, and then they bought another store, and then they had a local chain. I mean, they did very, very well. Okay, they were really good. While I was at the store, Mr. Ponsenhagen, the family that owned the store, had a brother. They had John and Kurt and old man Ponsenhagen and Adolf Ponsenhagen. Well, Adolf Ponsenhagen was quite a character, and we learned very early, if Adolf comes in the store Tell him to see me. Come to my office. Don't do anything for him. Don't touch anything. Just send him to the office or kick him out if you want. So what Adolf would do is he would go into the store, he'd sneak his way downstairs to the meat where the meat was being processed, and he'd take a big piece of meat like that, top sirloin, whatever it was, and he'd wrap it up. And then, of course, he had access to the sticker. So he'd set that to 3 cents a pound and put it on there, 12 pounds, 36 cents. And then he'd take it and he'd go upstairs and he'd buy it for 36 cents. And, the cashier would look at him and he goes, I'm Adolf. I'm Adolf. Okay, Mr. Brunson. What are they going to do? They're going to get fired for this asshole. So, and then, but it would be a constant thing of, Bernie or one of the old man coming to, Adolf, don't check him out. Don't take his money. No, he kick him out. Get him out of here. You know, family stuff. It's why can't people get along? Because they're different. That's why. Because one doesn't do anything and he's out to screw everybody. And
well, we did that. That was going back to the old Stop and Shop days. That was the other job that I wound up getting after mowing lawns. And now I'm 16. I actually got a real job, and same thing, same situation you're talking about. I'm working my ass off, doing part time, going to school during the day, go to Stop and Shop, stocking shelves at night. And it wound up being everybody in Ringwood wound up working at Stop and Shop. So Chris is running the register, Christina's running the bakery. You got somebody out in a deli, and yeah, sometimes you go over to bakery. Hey, Christina, what do you got going on over there? Chris, I got the best variety of cheesecake. It's $15. I said, oh, yeah? She goes, here you go. How much do I owe you? She goes, don't worry about it. A favor for a favor. And that's kind of how it wound up running half the time. Now, mind you, this is before we had cameras in the store. And what we did was totally just not right. It was very immoral, but I've learned in life, listen, you're a kid, you're an asshole, you screw up sometimes. But I will say, now mind you, I didn't do this for everybody, but occasionally you'd come up with a carton of eggs, a can of shaving cream, some condoms, and some silly string. Well, it's the night before Halloween. I know you're not. I mean, you're probably cooking something. You're probably setting up for a party in the morning. Who am I to say it? I just look at them and go, "Don't worry about it." And they're sitting there with a handful of cash, going, "What? Don't worry about it. It's on the house." Oh,
it's not so easy to do that today, right?
Now you can't do that at all.
You got to at least charge him $3, right?
No, but again, I'm a kid. I'm 16, 17. I was stupid. It was immoral. But I mean, you live and learn. But one of the things talking about now, was this in good faith? I don't know. However, during 2003, during August of 2003, what do I have over here? It was August 14th, 2003, beginning at 4 p.m. Do you remember the Northeast blackout that wiped out everything?
I don't remember that, but I do remember a big blackout. But oh, sure, I'll take your word for it.
So I had a thing. It was the Northeast blackout. Was a widespread power outage throughout parts of the Northeast, and actually ran into most parts of the Canadian province into Ontario. Now, I was working at the grocery store when this power outage happened. I mean, we're just boop 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 boop, just mind our own business, and then just boom, everything goes dark. I mean, the store just went dark. And everybody's looking at each other like, what do we do? I don't know.
Well, it'll be on in 5 minutes. Don't worry.
Yeah, it'll be on in 5 minutes. 10 minutes, 15, 20, an hour goes by. We're like, what is going on? Now, mind you, this is what did I say? It was 2003. We really didn't have cell phones. I mean, for at least for me, whenever I had a cell phone, it was one of those prepaid ones. Who are you gonna call? I'm gonna call home and go, "Hey, mom and dad, the power's out." What are you gonna do? Be like, "Yeah, power's out over here." It wound up being hours because it was kind of like the beginning of my shift, and it was hours that this power was out, and people started to panic. So like the refrigeration's gonna go bad, the dairy's gonna. So we're going. Well, the best thing that I could think of is, well, I gotta take all the ice cream home with me. I mean, I'm just gonna start walking up and down the aisles and start taking shit. Now, in my stupid ass mind, what am I gonna do with all this produce and all this dairy and all this ice cream and candy and all the stuff that's gonna go bad when I bring it to a house that has no power? But at that time, I was just like, you know what? I'm gonna just take an opportunity. I'm gonna try to help out the store. They're gonna lose some profit anyway. So,
My dad, as I told you, worked at Safeway for many years, and he worked like five different jobs. I mean, and it was like every Friday and Saturday he'd work Safeway, in addition to whatever he did during the week, which for Metropolitan Life Insurance. So on Friday, you get a call. My mom gets a call. Okay, Eddie, I'm bringing some stuff home. Uh-oh, what happened? Yeah, the freezers went down. So here he comes home. And my mom. Okay, kids, let's get out the bowls. What's going on? Dad's coming home. He's got 40 gallons of ice cream, right? Or the other thing was the bread that they couldn't sell, and they had to get rid of it. So we'd have like 20 loaves of cheddar cheese white bread, right? I said, "Oh my God, what are you going to do with all this white bread? Oh, let's have cheddar cheese meatloaf. I don't know." So
I had a friend Sean. I had a friend Sean who was friends with a baker, like the old Goldberg's Bakery. Now, whenever they closed, they uh they would just have to throw away a lot of the bagels that they didn't sell. So one day we came through and he goes, "Hold on, I know a guy." And he runs inside. He goes, You hungry? I got a couple bagels." I said, "Sure, whatever." He comes out with an industrial garbage bag of just bagels. I mean, there had to be like 100 bagels. And I said, "What the fuck am I going to do with 100 bagels? I can't eat. How am I going to eat 100 bagels?" Because I don't know. It's just, they're free. Now, mind you, we're also living in Ringwood. I don't want to just kind of pop my collar and put my pinky out, but it's not like we really had any homeless people, so it's not like you could go, "Let me do the my fair share and buy my way into heaven. Let me go donate these bagels to the homeless." We didn't have anybody. Yeah, the only thing we could do was just kind of huck them out the car window at street signs and be like, I don't know, just we're feeding the animals.
sure, I mean that's helpful. You're feeding the animals. So you remind me of a Stop and Shop or Grand Union story. Um, which you'll remember, but I'll bring it up again anyway. So we're we're doing the Boy Scout thing, and we're at Sandy Hook, and each time we go down, of course, the different teams have to cook for themselves. But the adults had to cook for themselves as well, and they took turns. They say, okay, this time I'll be the cook. I'll take care of cooking and preparing meals. Okay. Well, this particular time, Mr. Cronauer was in charge of the food, and this was a Seinfeld episode. So in the Seinfeld episode that I reference, Kramer has some people over who are all very worried about germs. They're germaphobes, and they're eating this delicious meal that Kramer has prepared. He's prepared this big salad, and everyone's really enjoying it. They said, "Well, this is a wonderful salad." He says, "Yes, I prepared it while I bathed." And this was where he was cleaning food while he was bathing. And of course, they all start puking up. So, so we're there in Sandy Hook, and we're having lunch, and we've got some things going on. And Cronauer has made this enormous tuna salad bowl. I mean, it's like 10 pounds of tuna, and we're eating this on the bread and all. And I said, "Well, this is really good." He says, "Yeah, I got it out of the dumpster at Grand Union." You know, in fact, we all went like that, right? A real spit take. And now here's a guy who was earning $400,000 a year as a as an aviation pilot, and here he is dumpster diving to get food. So uh, he was quite a character when it came to those things. But I do remember that it was like a Laurel and Hardy. It was like everyone went blah, blah, at the same time. Uh,
I think one of the I know we were talking about jobs and to kind of come start wrapping this up. I know we got a couple more, but one
let's include one last thought about how things have changed in supermarkets. Everybody knows the UPC and the scanning and all that crap. Okay, it's a world of difference. Okay, um, you check yourself out. You go find stuff for yourself. You do all the stuff on your own. People don't want to help you. Just screw you. Go find it yourself and then check it out. That's why people steal, by the way. You go into Home Depot and you can't get help, so you just wind stuff and shit, stuff and stuff in your pants, and you leave. Right? You don't really care anymore because they're so helpful. Anyway, back in the day when I was a kid growing up, you would go to Safeway, and this seems almost implausible today. It this was at Garden State Plaza. They had a big supermarket. Garden State Plaza. A lot of people came there. Uh, you would drop your kids off. They had a little theater as you entered the store, and they would show cartoons, right? The Warner Brothers cartoons. Your kids would stay there by themselves while mommy and daddy or mommy shopped for the whole hour and a half, and then she'd come back and pick you up. There was never a thought that, well, what if something happened? Well, there was a toilet over there. Kids had a little kiddie toilet. They just took care of themselves, and here's some popcorn. Just sit down, watch the movies, and that sort of thing. Can you imagine that today? I mean, every predator would be sitting in there waiting for the first load in. Huh? So that's a big difference.
so I mean I was gonna say one of my favorite jobs, but then you threw the Predator in the child movie theater. You kind of threw me off guard with that. But I was gonna say one of the more memorable jobs that I worked at was Home Depot. Now, Home Depot, while everybody goes best store ever, blah blah blah. Uh, the one that I worked at was if you gave everybody a gun, they would probably just kill themselves right then and there. That was the enthusiasm of the environment that I existed in. However, I had like the best job because it was absolute chaos. And before I actually go into detail, I have to describe this Home Depot because the Home Depot was up here. The parking lot was like this. It was on a slope. Now, who the hell in their mind said, not only are we going to build this parking lot on a slope, but we're going to build an industrial facility that deals with wood and lumber and heavy duty things and lumber carts and we're going to put that on a hill too. So my job normally consisted, I mean, after I got out of the military working on, what was it, $20 million, $30 million helicopters, here I am working at Home Depot making $8 an hour pushing shopping carts. My new gig was to chase after shopping carts before they slammed into passengers' cars. And some of the times you just kind of said, I can't make it. And you just
You did the math, okay? You knew. Excel.
You said, God, take the wheel. And unfortunately, God might have had a couple beforehand. Then he just swerved it right into the side of that car. That guy's going to be pissed when he comes out. But I got to say, one of the best jobs I ever worked at, one of the funniest and best jobs I ever worked at because I lost about 15, 20 pounds working at that place because I'm pushing all these shopping carts uphill. The old, oh, when I was your age, I had to walk uphill, blah, 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 blah. No, I was actually pushing shopping carts uphill all the time. And in the meantime, I'm doing pull-ups on those cart returns and everything. And it was a lot of fun. I was also drinking on the job. I was like 22, 23. So during my lunch break, I'd run down a liquor store. Nobody would know. Your whole job is you exist outside. Yeah, yeah. You and your friends are getting sloshed outside. Oh, what do you need? You need some shit thrown in the back of your truck. Well, whatever. They tip you $5. But it also got me to experience the stupidity of humanity. Watching somebody with a Prius try to shove some two by four through the back seat, sitting in on a dash and thinking they could drive home. But there was one guy who got it. I think he had a Suburban or something like that, the extended cab. So it was probably a Suburban. Had it through the window, all the way through the three seats on the dash. Had it, slammed the back window closed, and boop, spidered the front windshield. The two by four went right through the windshield. And he's
So
looking at me going, "You son of a bitch." And I'm going, "Me? I didn't do shit. I pushed shopping carts and I'm half drunk." I said, "I watched you do the whole damn thing. What are you yelling at me for?" He go, "Why didn't you tell me?" I said, that ain't my job. I said, I'm over
anybody
here
that can
watching.
afford a $65,000 Suburban should know better, right?
I said, "Hey, I got a hard enough time watching Pablo over here. He's climbing up the fences over there, trying to. He's throwing the crappy fences off, trying to find the good ones." I said, "Listen, nah, this ain't."
That's where you can gain some satisfaction, you know, that you look at people, those are the funny moments, you know. It's worth it. So do you know not to do that when you go get two by fours?
Well, I take my truck. I now have a truck, and everybody goes, "Yeah, get rid of your truck." Blah, 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 blah. I go, "You know how much crap I could throw in the back of my truck, and I could throw it on the bed, or I could do whatever." I said, "I'm keeping my truck." I said, "That thing's gonna last me forever." Now, you were talking about one of the ladies that used to work for Mrs. Proud.
I used to work for a lady across the street, Mrs. Prout.
Now, what was the story with her?
So, story with her, Mrs. Prout. I'm a kid. I'm 11 years old. I'm dying for things to do. So, okay, you can cut my lawn. Okay, great, great. I'm going to go over there. Mrs. Prout was a widow, and her young daughter lived with her, and she was the widow of a doctor, so she always had nice things. So, okay, I go over and I cut her lawn. Okay, do you think you could clip the shrubs? I don't know. I guess I could ask my dad if we have a clipper. Okay, okay, you clip the shrubs. Okay, little by little, I'm doing more and more and more things. And oh, the fence needs painting. Do you know how to paint? Yeah, of course I know. What do you think? I'm 11 years old. I know everything. I can do that. And then I said, "Do you have anything inside you need fixing? Because I'm really good at fixing stuff." She said, "Well, got a couple of lamps I need that don't work anymore." She said, "No problem. I'll take care of that." So I take those in. I don't know what I'm doing, but I figure it out and I rebuild the lamps, and she's excited and that sort of thing. And then little by little, I'm building up this business where like I'm working 8 hours a day, right? She's taking me out to dinner. She says, "Oh, Pat and I are going to go for dinner. Come with us." Okay. And my mother's going, "Are you living here? What are you doing? What are you doing over there? Does she have a room for you? What's going on? Right? Is she touching you?" No, I said, "No, nothing's going on. Nothing bad is going on." Uh, uh, so I'm doing all these things, and then the question comes up about painting. She said, "Well, oh, my house needs painting." I said, "I can do that. I mean, I'm 12 years old now. I can paint a house." And of course, I'm telling my folks what I'm doing, and I'm up at 5 o'clock in the morning. Okay, in the summer, I'm not going to school. I'm anxious, so I get up. I'm up at 5 o'clock. At 5:30, I'm dressed and I'm on my way down to Carr's Bakery because Carr's Bakery has fresh rolls for a nickel a piece. I get a half a dozen rolls, and they are like the perfect thing. They're beautiful. Oh my God, you can't even buy these rolls anymore. So I get those. They're hot. I put butter on them. I'm enjoying life. And 6 o'clock, 6:30, I'm doing stuff around Mrs. Prout's house. I'm painting and that sort of thing. And your old man is an idiot until you're 18, and then all of a sudden he becomes really smart. And I'm he's waiting for the day. And I'm painting his house, and I got a ladder that's like 2 feet high. And then I said, "Dad, do we have a bigger ladder? I gotta get up higher." He says, "Yeah, we got a 8 foot ladder." Okay, good. Well, great, great. Well, let me get that. And I said, well, how do you hold a bucket while you're painting? He says, you don't. You put it on, you clip it on. So, oh, it is something for that. Great, good. Let me do that. Whoops. There's a gallon of paint that went over her shrubs. All right. So now we got white shrubs, and I don't know how do you fix white shrubs. So I cut them down, and that didn't make it too happy, right? Because you can't unpaint shrubs. I said, well, it'll grow back. It'll grow back green, and that kind of pissed her off. That took the edge off of it. Anyway, I get that first whole floor done all around. I'm scraping. I'm really busting my ass, and it gets to the point where it finally dawns on me, like, why am I not thinking about this? I said, Dad, the ladder's too short. It's like 48 feet. He says, I was wondering when you were going to realize that. I said, well, how am I going to get up there? He says, I don't know. How do you think you're going to get up there? I said, I have no idea. So he wound up, because he was a master painter, he wound up taking on my job to finish it, because the money that I was going to make doing that was going in my college fund right away. And I remember to this day how much I charged her for doing that, plus a whole bunch of other stuff. It was $200. I think she gave me 220 to get a house painted and stuff fixed. That was incredible. But the idea that, 11, 12, 13, you don't realize that you need a ladder that's like 40 feet. Do you have one of those? Did you plan ahead? Do you have a paintbrush? Do you know how to use it? But guess what? I know now. Huh? So those are some things that you do that you wind up getting yourself a little. I did remember rewiring some things for her, and I started a small fire in her living room. I do remember that. I said, I can fix that. She said, oh, she's having a heart attack practically, right? Very sweet lady. Anyway. Yeah, it's those are I don't know. I look back at that as being highly educational, worth many times the price of the seminars and lectures that I've taken.
And that was kind of and that kind of goes back to the last episode I put out, the whole creepy crawler episode, which, I mean, a lot of people were not a fan of, and that was because I was trying to do something by myself, and I've tried ad-libbing, and it doesn't work in the best scenario, so I wound up trying to do more of a script read. And everybody hated it, but I also gave you my more or less rough draft of what I was reading off of, and you said it kind of reads better as a story to read it instead of actually hearing it.
It's a great story, yeah.
It goes back to the whole shit they don't teach you in school anymore. So the whole home economics, the whole wood shop, the whole metal shop, it just I mean, I was in high school. Yeah, actually in high school they were teaching me electrical work. And I mean, I'll admit I'm an idiot when it comes to electrical work. Aviation, little by little, I started learning a little more electrical stuff, and I should have taken more advantage of the classes that my company offered to advance my knowledge, because I was always too terrified to learn. But there was a lot of stuff that I should have learned, should have worked at. But I loved cooking. I loved the hands-on. I loved the woodworking. I loved the metal stuff, the metal shop stuff. And again, I don't want to say it's a lost art, but it's just, I feel like we're failing the educational system by not teaching them stuff like that. And then you kind of send them off into the world to where here we are talking, oh, I got a part-time job when I was 13. I'm mowing lawns when I was 13. Oh, I'm starting electrical fires, trying to do some rewiring in some old lady's house when I'm 14, 15. And nowadays, there's people that are in their mid-20s that are like, why do I need a driver's license? I don't want a driver's license. It's just like, are you serious? Like, for me, it's just it's a total disconnect of a generational thing.
There's a lot of reasons for that. It has a lot to do with the progression of attitudes and the idea that, you're above doing something. Well, I don't do that. I've never said that in my life. I know a lot of people who say, well, I don't do that. You don't do what? Well, I don't change tires. I just press a button. I said, well, when you're in the middle of the freaking Mojave Desert and you press a button and nothing happens, then what are you going to do? Right? So I hate that. Well, I don't do that attitude. I would rather be somebody who is as independent as possible, and then when you need it, call on somebody. Plus, you learn so much more. You know, nobody cooks anymore. I see some of these shows, and they make a fuss out of making macaroni, and I'm thinking, this is not a recipe. This is just putting two things together that have already.
Today's episode, I'm gonna make hamburger helper.
Yeah, hamburger helper. What? You know, give me a freaking break. I mean, this is pathetic. And I've asked a lot of people, can you change a tire? Have you ever changed a tire? No, they don't even know what that means. But fortunately, we've resolved that problem because when you buy a new freaking car, you don't get a spare tire. So there's nothing to do. It's okay. You
Well,
don't have to do
South
it. Now,
Park fixed that.
I'll give you one great example that it's we have failed people. They have not become stupider. Young people can meet the challenge if they're allowed to meet it. There was one year we had a robotics contest, and there were rules for robotics. These are the things that you can use. You can't use any other parts or any other items except something that you could fabricate. If you can fabricate it and you can use a 3D printer, you can make anything. Okay. But you have to use these parts. That's the limitation. Well, they needed a spring for a particular reason. Okay. They said, well, you can't use a spring. You can't use a metal spring. Well, they were agonizing. I said, you know, you may want to consider redesigning that so that you don't need the spring. They said, no, we're going to come up with some. So one kid was playing with a bottle, a large 2 liter bottle. He managed to cut this 2 liter bottle into a long piece of flexible plastic, which became the spring mechanism. And I said, that is really creative. That's using crap. That's, you know, knowing how to use anything to make something work perfectly. So people can do it if you give them the opportunity. But if you don't give them the opportunity, or if you don't cause them to have to do it, like you talked about a home ec, that to me is the perfect project planning. If you can do that, you're a problem solver. You have to measure, you have to calculate, you have to plan, you have to coordinate, and you have to make sure the project all comes together at the right time. I mean, if you can do that, you could probably build a plane at some point. For them to have gotten rid of such an important thing in school is absurd. But that's the fault of education, totally. And that's a big part of why people are not problem solvers today. We don't know how to solve. We can Google, but then that's it. If Google doesn't tell us what to do, we're screwed.
Well, we now have AI, so and
Well,
AI,
the problem with AI is, yeah, AI is great. AI is wonderful. Google is wonderful, but you know, you got to know how to do it too. And then you do it.
So anyway, I'm gonna wrap this up real quick. If you like a specific episode, like I always say every week, hey, you know what? It's free. If you know family, friends, if they got a birthday coming up, share it. It's free. Here's a birthday. Here's a QR code. Scan this QR code. Here's your birthday present. It's free.
Yes,
So
and remember, it's always possible. You may be able to kill your father. It's possible to
yeah,
do. Yeah.
it's possible to kill family if you get the right tools or
Mhm.
in the right situation. Dennis, you want to say you got anything before we sign off?
No, signing off.
All right. Until next week, thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you all next time.
Okay, bye bye.